8mm pellets. Now big pellets, 8mm pellets, I absolutely love using them for carp. They're brilliant baits, absolutely fantastic. When you want to be selective in the summer, they're absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to spin round onto my box and show you how simple it is to catch an absolute load of fish on 8mm pellets. It's not just the fish that likes the 8mm pellets. Mr. Duck also likes them. So I guess the question is, why would you want to use 8mm pellets at this time of year, particularly on the pole? We always use them on the bomb, we use them on the pellet waggler, but for some reason, other than a few venues, 8mm get neglected on the pole, and I'm not too sure why. They're a fantastic bait, particularly on venues that have got lots of silverfish in. They're a big bait, hard. Smaller fish find it very difficult to get these baits in their mouth. So it means that you can be really selective. You can fish for a carp, you can fish for bigger bream with 8mm pellets. But that's not the main reason that I love to use 8mm pellets. I like the fact that they make a really good noise and I can be super accurate with my feeding. Now today I've chosen a spot which I'll go into in a little bit more detail on, just a top kitten one, a great line here at the glebe. It's about 4 foot deep, which I like at this time of year. I try not to go much deeper than that, whether I'm fishing pace, pellets. I think 4 foot's a really comfortable depth for the fish to be at. If I was fishing 6mm, I'd be tempted to throw in 6, 8, 10 at a time, but with 8mm, you can feed 1 or 2, make a really positive noise. You can hear them going in, they make a great noise. I mean, listen to that, you can just hear it. And you know when you're fishing a bomb or a waggler, you're firing them pellets in, you can see the fish coming to them. It's the same on the short pole, but you can be really accurate with your feeding by hand, because you can literally just pick them up and just throw them in right on the money, right on the float. Almost like I actually throw them overhand, and you can almost throw them in like a dart and they'll hit that float bristle, exactly what you want. Another great thing about 8mm is that you rarely get a build up a bait on the bottom. Because they're so big, your mind tricks you into not feeding too many. And you pick up 3 or 4 and you think, blooming hell, that's a lot of pellets. But the truth is, fish eat them, they love them. But mentally, it's very easy to just pick up 1 or 2 pellets, and it means that you can regulate your feeding really well. This prevents the build up of bait on the bottom, making fish tricky to catch. And actually, pretty much every time fish come into your swim, you're gonna get a bite because there's so few pellets on the bottom. Now, before you take a sip of that brew that you've made before watching this video, can I just ask you to please hit that subscribe button? A whopping 60% of you guys watching aren't subscribed. It's totally free to do so. It means that you see every bit of content that I put out there. You get a little notification that shows you when I've uploaded something. I'm putting stuff on weekly. Now, I'm one of the few angling YouTubers that is keeping my content completely free. There's no charge whatsoever. It doesn't cost you a penny to watch my content. So please hit that subscribe button, because I want to keep it free for as long as I possibly can. Rigs are as simple as the bait itself. Simple and strong is what you need for 8mm pellets. We're fishing for big carp here today, 4 pound and above. We want to be tooled up for the job. 18+ pound margin zip is my ultimate carp elastic these days. I just use it all the time. Moving down, I've got 022 mainline, strong stuff. We want to be strong, we want to be reliable. We're going to be catching big fish today, but more importantly, this tends to be a better method later in the day. So you might only get an hour on this where the fish are actually actively feeding on that short line. So you need to make the most of it. So you want gear that's not going to let you down. 022 mainline. Importantly is the float. Now this is a 0.4 RAF. It's got a 3mm hollow bristle that's really thick. Now I love this for 8mm pellets. It's very positive and it doesn't get affected by the pellet too much. I plumb ups to probably, so I'm about 2 inches over depth, and then the bristle just sits there and it doesn't drag under. Say if there's a bit of tow on the lake, it doesn't drag under or anything like that. It just sits there rock solid, and I love that for 8mm pellets. The only time within reason this goes under is when there's a carp attached to it, and I love that. It's a diamond shape, which is very stable, and it's got a glass stem. Perfect. Now I've got a 0.4 today, but I wouldn't hesitate to go up to a 0.5 or even a 0.6. If conditions dictate, go heavier. You can use light floats, of course you can, but you will just foul up more fish. The aim of the game is to be nice and stable over your bait. That is the way you're going to catch more fish and foul up less fish. 0.4 today, but like I say, I wouldn't hesitate to go heavier. Down to the shotting, and it's just my tried and tested. I've got 5 number 8s there, about 1 inch apart. It's a strung bulk. I've used that for years and years, and I just like how it works. But it could be a bulk and droppers, it could be a solid bulk. The key is to get it down We're trying to catch fish on the bottom, so we want a shotting pattern to reflect that. Hook length wise, because we've got such a large bait on, I actually prefer a slightly longer hook length than what I would normally use when I'm pole fishing. And for that reason, I've got 8 inches. Now I tie all my hook lengths at 12 inches and it allows me to chop them down to suit the baits I'm using. And then down at the hook end, I've got a size 16 Camasan animal feeder, my favourite hook. And I've just got a little bait band that'll accept the pellet. Simple, strong stuff. And the reason for that slightly longer hook length is, I think when you've got such a positive bait, you don't need the droppers to show you the bite so much. And I actually prefer just having a little bit of drop there at the bottom with no shot on it. It's just something that gives me confidence. You'll notice I haven't got a pole pot or anything like that. All the feeding today is going to be done by hand. We're not going to feed anything by pot. It's really simple. Anyway, so let's get some fishing done. So we've picked a far bank marker and the wind's going from right to left. So I'm going to just swing my pellet downwind and then hold my float out the water. And it's going to come in underneath. Now let's start the feeding. Now I'm just going to pick up 2 pellets. Now this is just at the start, so oh look at that! It actually went exactly where I needed it to. But this is how I'm hopefully going to demonstrate how instant these pellets are, as long as your timing's right. Now I could sit here in the middle of the day on a baking hot day when there's no wind, and you probably wouldn't get any indications. But because we've this is early in the morning, we've got our timings right, overcast day, wind pumping in, it's the perfect time to fish this kind of method. Now I'm just going to try and hold that float pretty still. I'm just throwing 2 pellets in. Now to start with, I'm just trying to gauge the response. I'll often just throw a single pellet over the top, just 1 pellet, throw it at the float as accurately as you can. That went right on the bristle. You see them back shot are really working, helping that sort of diamond float digging. Got plenty of bristle on show, and hopefully we're going to attract a carp. Now instantly it's towing quite strongly against the wind. But we've got a nice float on that. Carp are going mad. Oh, an indication there. So all we've got is 3 pellets on the bottom at the moment, and we're getting indications, and that's just how attractive this is. Now, one thing about hard pellet fishing, it can be whether you're fishing here, it could be fishing on the long pot, it could be fishing to islands. One thing that I can't explain is how often you'll get a bite when a pellet hits the water and you'll get a bite, clean hooked fish on the bottom. Whether the fish has sat there and the noise triggers them to snap at it, I don't know. But there can be no denying that the amount of times you'll get a bite when a pellet hits the surface. So it is a good idea just to keep trickling them in. Don't throw them in, don't go willy-nilly, because remember we're trying to be careful with the amount of pellets we end up with on the bottom, because last thing we need is 30 8mm pellets on the bottom, because it's going to be hard to get a bite. But by trickling them in 1s and 2s, you're creating that noise, which is so important. We've discussed that already. But you're also making sure there's enough bait to attract a fish. So let's just be patient. I also like to lay my rig in quite regularly. I do the whole thing. I don't lift and drop. I actually lift the rig out and lay it back in again. I think that's really important. Sometimes when you're whoa, see that? You got an indication there. Sometimes when you're just throwing 1 or 2 pellets in, I think they watch them down, and I think sometimes just sitting there with a static bait on the bottom is just really unattractive. Don't get me wrong, there's some days when you just want to nail it on the bottom and just sit and wait and wait and wait, but most of the time, I must admit, I like to keep my rig falling through, so I'll give it a minute or so in position and then lay it back in again. And then we just, oh, little indication there. And read your swim. If you're getting indications, don't keep throwing pellets in, do you know what I mean? You've just got to consider what you're trying to achieve, because if I was to just keep throwing pellets in, eventually the fish will come up, which is obviously not really what we're after. But you've still got to balance it out with actually attracting a few fish in the first place. So initially, I'd like to just feed quite frequently to start with, just to try and pull some fish in the swim. Oh, one hit my pole then. If you do throw one out of position, don't worry about it, just throw a couple more in. I do think one of the strengths of this type of fishing is that all your bait isn't on a tiny little pile, it is spread over a little area, and I think that makes the fish feed quite confidently. There we go. Didn't take too long, did it? Yeah, because your bait's spread over a little area, not just a little pile, then they actually become quite easy to catch, because you can imagine the fish are moving around the swim trying to pick them up. It's great fishing. I love fishing here at the Glebe. See, we've got that 18 plus elastic on. To hopefully sort the men from the boys. They are strong in this venue, which is why we've got the proper tackle on. Sure. Here he comes. But that's how simple 8mm can be. Like, we're just trickling the baits in over the float. We've got that positive float on, we've got positive tackle on. It's just a great way to fish, and I'm fishing a top kitten one. What can be more enjoyable than that? Fishing really close in, so even if it's a windy day, you can do it. And you catch big brutes like that. Look at him. Brilliant start. Let's see where he's hooked. Oh, 10 out of 10 on the hook hold. Absolute beauty. Let's just have a quick look at him. It's a lovely mirror, about £6 I'd say, £5–6. Lovely fish. Now just a quick word on the pellets that we're using. These are 8mm Coppens. They're probably the best for fishing on the bottom. I think Coppens are the best pellets. They're hard, they're durable, they last forever. They don't break down really quick. Screttings are great, but they do have a habit of breaking down quickly. So I think that Coppens are the #1 choice for fishing on the bottom. Now you can get them in loads of different guises. You can get them obviously at fisheries, you can get them in tackle shops, but look for, they're like a Coppens. It's an obvious thing what a Coppen is. It's a bit bigger, it's really dense. They're a bit, and they just look different to Screttings, and they make that lovely plop when they hit the water. So if you are doing this method, the 8mm pellet short, get yourself some Coppens, you won't go far wrong. These are the fish that we want to be catching. We want to be, especially in a match situation, you want to be catching these bigger fish. Now, one thing I will say, I feel like I could add another shot to this rig, so I'm going to put another number 10 on, just to help the rig dig in. I'll use that word quite a lot, digging in. You'll know, when you've got this kind of diamond float on, it's very stable. They sort of, when you get them set up dead right, you can hold them with the back shot and they sort of just sit there. They sort of dig in against the toe. And it's they're just brilliant for this sort of fishing, when you're fishing with big baits and toe and wind and all sorts of business. So same again, just an 8mm pellet straight out the feed. I don't really mess about with red pellets or anything like that for this. I do when I'm shallow fishing, but I've always found just a pellet straight out the bag is the best one for this sort of fishing. So once again, lay the rig down, tow, and we'll start the process of building a swim again. So 2 pellets, and see that number 10 just dotted that float down a little bit more, which is going to help it dig in against that toe. Now, it's a great method for me because obviously I like feeding, and I can just trickle those single 8mm pellets over the top all the time, and it's just a great way of attracting fish and getting clean bites. Like, I know we missed an indication, but I'm pretty sure the first time a fish was there on the bottom feeding, we actually caught it, so, which is obviously a great sign. Oh, indication. Probably not going to be too long before we catch another one. Now I've got, like I say, I've got a 0.4 float on. Oh. Turn to look at you and got one. We've got a 0.4 float on, but the wind is picking up, and it would be a great idea to have a jump up as well set up, probably a 0.4. Jesus. Always have your spare sections because situations like that can happen. And you hook a big wallower that then decides to wake up. This venue's notorious for it, where they just charge for the far bank. It's a big one as well. I've got to catch one more, haven't I? Big common, look. I love catching big fish on the pole, and this is one of the best ways to do it. I know I like my pace fishing, but this is a good way to fish as well. Cracking. Look at that, a 6 big common. Hooked in the bottom lip this time. Go on, we'll catch one more because it's nice, isn't it? Oh. Earned a drink there. Freezing cold tea, lovely. Okay, I'm enjoying this, so let's try and catch another one. No need to do anything drastic. We're catching really nicely. I mean, if you could catch 5 to 6 pound every 5 minutes, you'd be doing well, wouldn't you? So just flick that down, straight downwind. And it seems to me that just feeding 2 and then the 1s is really a nice feeding pattern. So 2 when we first go out, let it fish for a few, 30, 40 seconds. If we don't get an inquiry, we can start throwing the singles in. Without too many problems with liners or, oh, that was a terrible throw. That was better. Now, one thing just to quickly mention is the distance that I'm fishing. Now, a lot of this depends on obviously the venue, the stock of fish, the depths, as to how far out I'm fishing. This could be top kit and 1, it could be a top kit, it could be a top kit and 3. It all depends on the venue. Like I say, I do like that sort of 4 foot mark. It seems to work for me. And here, actually this swim, I'm on peg 76 here at the glebe, and this swim is flat as anything, like a top kit. It's pretty much the same depth as this, and I put another section on, it's the same depth. So I just picked a nice middle ground really, just top kit and 1. I think it's a nice distance. It's far enough away from me so the fish feel comfortable, but I can keep the fish down as well, which I think is quite an important thing to consider. Sometimes if you fish a little bit further out, the fish are more happy to come up. So I like fishing closer to myself, and I don't know why, I tend to find that I catch better fish as well. But again, that's venue dependent. It all depends on the venue you're going to. So if you're going to a Todburr or somewhere like that where there's loads of fish, this is probably too far. But here, where we are fishing and we're waiting for bites a little bit, then this kind of distance is great. And then if the margins are really shallow or the slope is a bit further out, then go a bit further, top kit and 2. But yeah, I like this distance, and just put a decent plummet on. I use a 45 grammer. Have a good plumb around, and you want to feel a bottom that you can feel it donking on the bottom. That's great. If you can feel it a bit sludgy and a bit soft, don't fish there. Come up a bit, take a bit, take some length off your pole and fish a bit shorter. So no indications here. I'm just going to put that rig out again. Like I say, I don't like to sit stationary for too long, because I do think that the fish tend to react to the bait falling through. You'll notice I've got a relatively short line. I've got about 8 inches of line above my float to my pole tip, which is lovely. I can control it. I've got those back shot, freedom brake back shot, just a few inches above the float, so I can control everything just fine. If it was a still day or I could get away with it. That was a nice bite. What a lovely bite. I wouldn't hesitate in using a really short line, obviously as long as venue dictates. So when you're fishing like this, you often get them fast bites like that where it just goes zunk. And a short line, the fish actually can hook themselves, so it can be well worth doing. And I think this one will wrap us up lovely. Cracking fish. You see this pink elastic just bosses them without feeling like you're overloading the pole, which I think is so important to say. You know, sometimes, oh, that's a big one that. Sometimes I feel like some of the stronger hollows and stuff, personally I feel like I'm putting too much pressure on the hook hold and stuff, whereas this one is just a nice compromise. It gives you the power to get fishing like that really quickly, but also you don't feel like you're going to break your pole. And I think that's a cracking. I've caught the one-eyed carp to end on. I mean, he's a good fish though. He's in great condition. He's just got one eye. I'm going to call him all one eye to finish on. Massive mouth. You can see why they love them 8mm pellets. You can imagine, can't you? They're coming to that noise, and there's just a smattering of pellets on the bottom. You're gonna get a bite. There's no faff on the bottom. There's just a smattering of 8mm pellets on the bottom. You're gonna catch loads of fish, and that is a cracking one to end on. Old one eye. Look at him. So typical of big commercial carp. Oh, one eye, bless him. Happily feeding though. And thanks everyone for watching. Get them 8mm out, give them a good go, and you will catch absolutely stacks of fish on them on these venues where there's loads of big carp.